Have you ever felt like everyone's speaking a language that you have no idea what they're talking about? Maybe you have always loved architecture. It's beautiful, but you feel like you're not in the club. Maybe you're just starting to explore the world of buildings, or maybe even going into architecture school and you feel like people are saying things and you have no idea what they're talking about. Don't worry, you're not alone. And still, sometimes I find myself like, what are they saying? If you've ever heard of the word archispeak, that's the pretentious language that architects tend to speak. Well, this video is going to give you 10 of the essential architectural terms that you need to know. Hey everyone, I'm Bryn Young. I'm a licensed architect, and I help aspiring architects pass their licensing exams and become licensed architects. I'm also here to help the next generation of aspiring architects find their way to the career. So today, I want to bring it back to the basics. By the end of this video, you will be able to chat like you've been in design school for years. All right, let's do it. Number one, form versus function. This is a phrase that you hear all the time. And it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, form versus function. I know what they're talking about. What the hell are you talking about? This is really pertinent today because it's always a debate. Form follows function, function follows form. What does it even mean? So the form of a building is the literal form, right? The form. The function is how it works. So when we hear this phrase, form follows function, the idea is that the form of the building, the aesthetics, should be driven by its purpose, not just aesthetics. We've seen this in history when architecture has been really ornate, designs were ornate, and people wanted to break away from it. They were over it and they wanted to go to the full opposite. Bauhaus was an incredible movement that really broke away from the traditional ornate design to design very simply, to design exactly what is needed for its purpose. Think of like a fire station. You have an efficient layout, clear circulation. But what happens when form leads function? In this case, you might get buildings that are really ornate and you can't even tell what the function is. You can't even tell what the building is. Think of Zaha Hadid and her bold sculptural forms. She was an icon in architecture, and she was definitely a fan of form. And neither is necessarily right or wrong. In my opinion, great design knows how to balance both. Number two, massing. So massing is how the overall shape or volume of a building feels. Is it heavy and grounded or light and dynamic maybe? If you've ever played with blocks as a kid, or if you have kids who play with blocks, that's massing. Architects use massing to test proportion, balance, and scale, which are all important in architecture, long before the details come in. Massing is where we start to form the concept, and then later details come in. Number three, fenestration. This is such a fancy word, and it is so basic. It literally just means windows and openings on a building. So basically windows and buildings on a facade, which facade will be next one. When we talk about fenestration, it has a lot to do with the architecture, not only in the aesthetics, but how much light is coming in, ventilation, basically like how your building breathes and sees. But it is so basic. So the next time someone says, oh, look at the fenestration on that facade, you could be like, oh yeah, the windows are cool. So number four, speaking of facade is just the face of a building, what you see from the outside. Architects usually pay a lot of attention to a facade and play up the design and the materials and all that sort of thing because it's usually your first impression of a building. Number five, program. So the program is actually what happens inside of a building. It's not like code, it's more of a list of functions. So what's the program of a building? Is it a school that has classrooms and offices and bathrooms and storage spaces? Is it a residential space and you need to figure out what the program is so that you can create adjacency diagrams? What's next to what? Is the master bathroom going to be right by the kitchen? Maybe not. Maybe that's not a good idea. So we use program and adjacencies to design the interiors of our space. Number 6, circulation. So when we're talking about circulation in terms of architecture, we're talking about the way you move through a space. How are people going to move through a space, whether it's private spaces or public spaces? Say it's a public building, a commercial building, and you want to bring people through the building in a very specific way. That's the circulation. How are they going to move through the building, and how is that going to dictate the architecture? This can be horizontal circulation, but also vertical circulation. So stairways, elevators, escalators, how are people moving through the space? You can have good and bad architecture, and circulation is one of those things where you can have good or bad circulation. Bad circulation can be really confusing. You don't really know where you're going. Maybe you end up in a spot that you're not supposed to be going to, say a restaurant, and it's like you have no idea where to go. Good circulation, you won't even have to think about it. You're just going to be drawn through a space based on solely the design. Number 7, scale and proportion. Scale and proportion are really important in architecture because are typically designing buildings for humans. And you can play around with scale and proportion, whether you want something to feel really grand and ornate. Say you're designing a church and you create this steeple that goes 60 feet into the air. That scale and proportion shows either some grandiosity or something more simple. If you are designing a spa or therapy area and you want people to feel really cozy and safe, then maybe your scale and proportion is going to be smaller and more intimate. And scale really is the relationship to human size. You can sometimes walk up to a place and the scale is disproportionate. It doesn't feel human scale, and it can feel really uncomfortable. Oftentimes, like in a house, when you walk up to a front door, there will be an overhang or something roof above it that is shorter to feel like you are safe and welcomed into the space. You can play up with scale and proportion in architecture to evoke certain emotions. Just like with circulation, you can dictate how the user is going to feel or move through a space. You can also do that with scale and proportion. Number 8, cantilever. Cantilever is a word that we hear often in modern design, and this is a structural element that projects horizontally without any sort of support at the end. Think like Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water. He has cantilevered decks and roof lines that project past the wall line. Cantilevers often feel like they're defying gravity. When you become an architect, you will learn there's certain engineering and physics that go into play so that you can give off that illusion while also keeping your building safe. Number 9, void versus space. You may know void and space. These are common words, but in the world of architecture, understanding how these play a role is important. So architecture is literally the art of shaping space. You're taking nothing and you're creating something to create a building. Voids are the openings, courtyards, light wells, the negative space around that structure that also then create the final design. And the solids are the physical masses that then make up the architecture. And like most things, the best designs are able to balance both. And you're able to create contrast and rhythm between void and solids. Number 10, context. So no building exists in isolation. Context means understanding the surroundings. Where is this building? And does it make sense in its context? The site, the culture, the climate, materials. A good architect designs something that belongs in a context, belongs in the space. Even if it stands out, that's fine, but it's still contextually relevant. It's like seeing a Mediterranean style house in the snowy Alps. It just doesn't fit, right? It doesn't fit the context. Or maybe you see a skyrise building in a residential neighborhood, in a historic residential neighborhood. It just doesn't quite fit. So the best architects make sure that their building fits the context and is appropriate for the context. Here's the thing. A lot of these words may be words that you do know in your normal day-to-day language. So if this helps create some clarity on words that maybe you've heard, but you never really knew what they meant. If this helped you finally decode some of the common words that you hear from architects and in design, leave me a comment below. What is a word that you still have no idea the context or the meaning? What is an architecture word that you've heard that you don't totally understand? And were any of these words surprising to you? I love hearing from you all. And while you're at it, definitely hit the like button on this. It helps support our channel and lets me know that you want more content like this. Remember, architecture isn't just about buildings. It really is a language and a psychology. And now you can speak it a little bit more fluently. And in future videos, I will be diving into more of the psychology of architecture and how to be an amazing architect. In the meantime, check out this video next.